In 1995, two engineers in a cramped Montreal basement set out to question everything the cycling world believed about speed. Their homemade prototype was rejected, yet what followed turned basement experiments into wind tunnel revolutions and made Cervélo a name whispered in Tour de France corridors. But just how did outsider thinking transform an entire sport, and what secrets shaped those breakthrough bikes? Phil White and Gerard Vroomen did not look like the next big thing in cycling. In 1995, their workspace was a Montreal basement, cluttered with carbon fiber scraps and engineering textbooks. Both were outsiders, Vroomen a Dutch engineer who had studied bike dynamics, and White a fellow McGill student with a knack for hands-on problem solving. Their partnership started with late nights, borrowed tools, and a shared belief that speed was a science, not an accident. Opportunity arrived when Italian pro cyclist Gianni Bugno asked them for a time trial bike faster than anything on the market. The result was the Baracchi, a radical machine with a beam saddle and integrated bars. Painted a shocking acid green, it looked nothing like the steel frames filling pro team trucks. Bugno loved it, but his sponsors did not. The Baracchi never made it to the start line. For most, that would have been the end. Instead, rejection forced a decision. If no one else would build bikes this different, White and Vroomen would do it themselves. They did not have a factory or industry connections, just a basement, a few $1,000s, and a stubborn refusal to compromise. Every frame was hand-laid, measured, and reworked until it met their standards. The goal was not to fit in. It was to prove, with data and design, that the old rules of cycling could be rewritten. That spirit, restless, experimental, and unafraid of failure, became the core of Cervélo's identity. The story was not about a single prototype. It was about the kind of people who would rather start from scratch than play by someone else's blueprint. Every Cervélo design began not with sketches or slogans, but with a test protocol. The company set its baseline at 30 miles per hour, a speed chosen for its brutal honesty, revealing aerodynamic flaws that might hide at lower velocities. In the San Diego low-speed wind tunnel, each frame faced a strict routine, a yaw sweep from -20 degrees to +20 degrees following the Beta Schedule 5 sequence. These angles mimicked the unpredictable gusts that hit riders in real races, not just the steady headwinds of a laboratory. Before any prototype earned a Cervélo badge, it had to pass a calibration check. The benchmark was a first-generation P3C, modified with a tube over the fork extension to replicate handlebar drag. This calibration frame stayed at the tunnel, setting a baseline for every new design and for other manufacturers who booked time after Cervélo. Data from computational fluid dynamics simulations, CFD, was compared directly to tunnel results. Only when the numbers matched did a design move on to real-world testing. This cycle, CFD tunnel road, formed a feedback loop. No guesswork, no shortcuts. If a frame failed to beat the calibration bike in drag numbers, it went back to the drawing board. Even small changes, like a millimeter shaved from a tube or a new cable routing, had to prove themselves at 30 miles per hour and across the full yaw sweep. The process was slow, deliberate, and relentless. But it meant that every Cervélo model, from the earliest P-Series to the later P4, could trace its lineage directly to wind tunnel data. The result was not just a faster bike, it was a new standard for how performance should be measured and built. The P5 was the result of a relentless pursuit for aerodynamic supremacy, shaped by data and wind tunnel hours rather than tradition. Engineers reimagined the cockpit, integrating the bars and stem into a single seamless unit to cut turbulence at the front of the bike. Every cable disappeared inside the frame, disc brakes were chosen for their clean airflow, and the carbon layup followed lines mapped by computational fluid dynamics. The goal was simple: less drag, more speed. In 2012, the P5's design met its proving ground at the Giro d'Italia's final time trial. Rider Hegedal rolled down the start ramp, needing every second to secure the overall win. Cervélo engineers later estimated that the P5 and its setup gave Hegedal a 72-second advantage over the course, enough to turn a razor-thin margin into a place in cycling history. For Cervélo, this was more than a victory, it was proof that engineering choices could decide the outcome of a Grand Tour. In 2002, Cervélo released the Soloist, a road bike that did not just tweak tradition, but rewrote it. At a glance, the Soloist looked nothing like the round-tubed aluminum frames filling European pelotons. Its tubes were shaped for speed, not convention, drawing on lessons learned from wind tunnels and computational modeling. The most radical feature was the squoval tube profile, a blend of square and oval shapes that balanced aerodynamic efficiency with frame stiffness. This was not just a new model. It was the first true aero road bike, built to slice through wind at racing speeds without sacrificing the ride quality needed for long, punishing stages. The Soloist's arrival created a new category: bikes designed from the ground up to cheat the air, not just survive it. Within a few years, nearly every major brand was racing to match Cervélo's approach. But in 2002, the Soloist stood alone, proof that engineering could drive the future of road cycling. Two paths began to define Cervélo's approach to road racing, one obsessed with minimal weight, the other with aerodynamic efficiency. The R5 was built for the climbers, engineered to be as light and responsive as possible, every gram shaved from the frame without sacrificing stiffness. Its geometry and carbon layup aimed at one thing: making the bike disappear beneath the rider on steep gradients and winding ascents. In contrast, the S5 took lessons from the wind tunnel and pushed them further. Every tube shape and every junction was sculpted to cut through the air at high speed. The S5's frame was not just about slicing seconds off a time trial, it was about turning flat and rolling stages into opportunities for speed. Where the R5 chased gravity up the mountains, the S5 battled the wind on open roads. This split was not a compromise, it was a recognition that the demands of modern racing required both specialties, each honed for its own arena. Cervélo's lineup became a toolkit, not a one-size-fits-all solution. Melissa Spooner's win at Ironman Lanzarote in 1998 put Cervélo on the map in a way no wind tunnel ever could. Spooner crossed the finish line on a Cervélo, beating a field dominated by established brands and proving that radical engineering could deliver results where it mattered most. Word spread quickly through the triathlon world. Athletes like Lothar Leder, known for chasing every aerodynamic advantage, began to switch to Cervélo frames, drawn by the promise of free speed. By 2005, at the Ironman World Championship in Kona, the numbers told their own story. Cervélo topped the official bike count, dethroning longtime leader Trek. This was not just a marketing win. It was a sign that the world's most demanding triathletes trusted Cervélo when every second counted. The P3, launched in 2001, became the weapon of choice for countless professionals and age groupers alike, winning more time trials and triathlons than any other bike of its era. For a company that started in a basement, the path to global credibility ran straight through the finish lines of the world's toughest races. In 2003, Cervélo entered the World Tour spotlight as the official bike supplier for Team CSC. This partnership put Cervélo's engineering to the test in cycling's most demanding arena. Riders like Carlos Sastre and Jens Voigt lined up at the Tour de France aboard frames shaped by wind tunnel data and relentless iteration. In the years that followed, Team CSC delivered stage wins on Cervélo bikes, proving that aerodynamic theory could deliver results on the grandest stage. The Soloist and later the S-Series frames became synonymous with breakaways and high-speed chases, as the team climbed from 14th in the world rankings to a dominant force in the peloton. The connection between engineering and victory became even clearer as Cervélo bikes crossed finish lines first in both sprint stages and mountain tests. This legacy did not end with CSC. In recent years, Visma Lease, one of the most successful teams of the modern era, chose Cervélo as its weapon for grand tours. Jonas Vingegaard's Tour de France triumphs and Primoz Roglic's Giro d'Italia win were fought on Cervélo's R5 and S5 models, linking decades of innovation to the highest stakes in professional cycling. Each win stands as evidence that Cervélo's obsession with speed and data has rewritten what is possible in the sport's most storied races. Cervélo's relentless focus on aerodynamics set a new standard, one now echoed across every elite bike brand. As professional teams chase marginal gains, the real race is for ideas, not just seconds. Innovation remains cycling's fiercest competition. What breakthrough will redefine the peloton next? Share your thoughts below.